All right, it is 6 p.m. on February 13th, 2024. I'll call this meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the Town of Sterling to order. We'll take the roll call, please.
Matthew Basso.
Joe Curtin, present.
Patrick Fox, present.
Diana Baldarelli, present.
Everett Pierce, present.
I'll note that we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is an application for a special permit filed by Joseph and Joy Day for to allow for the extension, alteration, or change to a pre-existing non-conforming structure for the purposes of building a front porch. The relevant article in the bylaws is 301-2.5 and 301-2.2.4 5A. The property is located at 48 Redstone Hill Road, parcel ID number 8637, and the property is located in the neighborhood residential zoning district. I assume Mr. Day is here?
Yeah, that's me.
All right. If you just, again, identify yourself for the record, please.
Joseph Day, 48 Redstone Hill Road.
All right. The board will hear your, what you wish to say about your application.
Yeah, so the existing garage is 6 feet 4 inches out from the main part of the house, so towards the road. So I just want to do a farmer's porch, 38 feet long. It's going to come out the same distance as the garage, so it'll be exact. It's not going to go out any further than the garage.
Do you have a diagram? Or
I have everything right anyway.
Yeah, if you could show that to us, would be helpful. I don't think it was included in the paper.
No, I just had them made up. So this is just like, it is, but it'll go there. You can see, this is the garage, you can see, not to exceed.
So,
You can sort of see it here, these are actual pictures of what we're going to do.
what does the existing house look like? This is the plan, right?
Yeah, well, the existing house looks like this, minus the porch.
How close is the house to the road?
It's 39 feet.
And the porch, what are the dimensions of the porch?
It's undecided right now, but 38 feet, long. And it's going to come out 6'4". It'll come out exactly the same as the garage.
So what is the distance from the garage to the property line, the front property line?
It's going to be like 32.
No, I mean the garage is there now.
32 to the, well, to the asphalt, right? Because I don't know what the town actually owns.
That's kind of a key number.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
but the garage is already there, sir, right?
this garage is already,
Yeah, and
Right.
how far is the garage from the road now?
it is 32 feet.
32 feet.
From the asphalt.
Yeah. From there to what I consider my land,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, and so the planned porch would also be 32 feet from
That's
the
right.
road.
So it's not increasing the non-conformity.
Right now, the house is 39
It doesn't need a variance,
feet.
it just needs a section.
It looks like this now, Pat.
40, I think.
Yeah. So basically,
There's a sketch.
How old is the house, sir?
1956. Yeah. So that's original, that's just a little shed, but that one-car garage is just, that's original to the house.
So the existing garage is pre-existing non-conforming to the
Correct.
front setback.
Right.
And then
So I'm just looking to go right to that.
you can't go further than that.
Yeah.
Existing non-conforming because
Because it doesn't meet the front setback. I think it's a neighborhood residential.
Well, I actually meet the front setback.
Yeah, what is the
if you go to the asphalt. But
No, you don't.
What is
though.
your
No, I
setback
have
in your
the
neighborhood,
problem.
do you know?
Say again?
Do you know what the setback is in your zone offering? It's 40?
It's 40.
Yeah.
So it doesn't meet the front setback, but it's pre-existing non-conforming,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it just intensifies the non-conformity, but we can do it with a section 6 finding without a variance.
Yeah.
So, it's not going to be closed in or anything. This is exactly what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, any questions? Are there any questions from the board?
I don't.
This is all the actual dimensions, if you want to see.
That's
that.
nice looking masonry you got on.
Yeah, I know somebody.
It was a non-residential structure, we need a variance, but
Well, that changes the whole character of the house.
It really does, yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
303?
somewhere for my wife to put her Amazon boxes.
Through
224.
I thought you said chair.
Yeah.
That's what I wish.
Careful, you're on camera.
302.2.4, 302.2.4, non-conforming uses and structures. That's
There it is, okay.
What is it, Joe, 402?
302.
2.2.4.
Yes. Board may award a special permit to reconstruct, extend, alter, or change a non-conforming in accordance with this section if it determines that such reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change will not be substantially more detrimental to existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood.
Yep, and that tracks the language in the statute, I think. 48B. Yep.
And I know when I went to that class 10 years ago, they give an exact, yeah, I know, I do it all the time, but in the handout, they have an exact example.
Anything further, Mr. Day, that you wanted to say about it?
No, I think it's pretty cut and dry.
All right. Anyone who is present who wishes to ask a question of the board or comment on this proposal, either in favor or in opposition, has the opportunity to do that now. Does anyone wish to be heard about it? All right, we'll note for the record that no one responded. Other questions from the board?
So it meets the, it meets the criteria of our.
Well, I think if we make a determination, and I don't see why we would not choose to do so, but we have to make a determination that this proposal Mr. Day has submitted is not more detrimental than the existing structure to the neighborhood.
That is correct, as long as it does not extend further than the existing garage.
Right. And those are the plans you submitted are the plans that you.
That's correct, yeah.
You don't anticipate any modification of those plans?
If it gets modified, I might be making it shorter, but it will not be longer.
And it will not be closer to the road?
Correct, right. It just might be, instead of 38, I might be going like, 30. I haven't decided on that yet, just.
But width-wise, you can't go any further.
Width-wise, I know I can't go out any further, and that's 6'4". So the porch will only be 6'4". Instead of a tradition 8 feet, I'm fine. I don't really care about that. But if I can do 6'4", that gives us the look we want.
Okay.
I think we'll be happy with that.
All right. Any other questions, comments from the board? I would entertain a motion to allow the special permit subject to the provisions of 301 2.2.4 and all other applicable provisions of the town's zoning bylaws.
So moved.
Seconded.
So Mr. Curtin moves to approve the special permit, seconded by Mr. Pierce. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the record will reflect the vote is 5 in favor, 0 opposed, and special permit will be granted, sir.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
All right, the next item on the agenda is an application for a special permit filed by Deborah Berube to allow for a food truck in the light industrial zoning district. It's Article 301 2.3 and 301 2.3 C14. Properties located at 1 Choxet Road, Sterling, Mass. Parcel ID number 6627. Properties located partially within the groundwater protection zoning district and the light industrial zoning district. I assume you are Mr. and Mrs. Berube?
Yes.
The board would be happy to hear what you have to say, but just a couple of comments at the outset. The permit had been granted, and I think it had expired because the 2 years had run. But I know, and I think board members are aware, there are existing mobile food vendor regulations that are, I don't know if you're aware of that exist in the town that were approved by the Board of Selectmen. And I looked at the regulations, and it appears they would govern your situation. In other words, the select board would determine whether or not to grant you a license to run this mobile vendor operation. So I'm not sure why you would need to appear before this board.
I believe,
And again, you just state your name, sir.
Robert Barabee,
Yeah.
when she started the food truck down there, I don't think there was any in town. So I think everybody's
Any
just
what?
trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
So it kind of got bounced around a little bit. And I think it came down to the special permit goes with the person.
The special permit, when we wrote it, we specifically wrote in there at the time, because there were no food truck regulations, the first or second line says that, should it be granting of it will not grandfather it under any future, I don't know what the exact wording is, but it's in the original special permit that we did, because at the time there was no regulations. And then
Right.
Rich Lane was our alternate member on the board at the time. And then I guess after that time, in like 2018, the Board of Selectmen enacted food truck regulations, because technically, it probably shouldn't have been, because we didn't know what to do, so when you got a
Yes,
special permit.
exactly, yeah.
But in the original special permit, it says that it will not be grandfathered should the thing, so.
Subject to any future bylaws or ordinances the town of Sterling produces for mobile food trucks.
Correct. So now that they have mobile food truck regulations, you don't need a special permit, you just need your yearly whatever
All the
permit.
inspections, yep. Right.
Okay, well, no, you still gotta get there's a license on the town, isn't it a license, Patty? Or is it it's like
Is there regulations that go?
Mobile food vendor license.
Yeah, on the selectmen's website, and then we had to check to make sure that they were, because the select board was not even familiar with them, so.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Barabee, apparently what happened, the board, this was several years ago, granted the permit, but we have to be governed by what the uses are, the table of uses, and there's no use in the bylaw for mobile, what do we talk, food vendors. That doesn't mean you can't operate, but you'd have to operate subject to the rules and regulations that the select board approved. So I assume, I wasn't on the board at the time, but I assume the board was trying to accommodate what you folks were trying to do, because there's no mobile food vendor listed in the table of uses, so they must have decided to call it a drive-in restaurant or a fast food restaurant, which it actually is not, just to allow you to operate. But at any rate, it was issued on 2-year periods, the 2 years expired, so right now there's no special permit in existence.
Correct.
So, I mean, you're free to appear or apply to the select board under these regulations. Are you familiar with the fact that there are?
We already
Yeah, I
have all
think,
that.
yes.
Okay,
They already have all that.
okay. Well, then it's their,
Because you're not gonna get one.
it's their call.
Perfect.
It's their call. Because I really don't think we have the authority to, grant a permit for a use that doesn't exist in our
And that might have been the
bylaws.
gray area where it went from the selectmen to zoning. As you were saying, where there was no food trucks in town, nobody knew what to do.
Well, that's
A lot of them got shuffled
the
around,
way to say it, yeah.
and then COVID and everything
Yeah.
kind of went through and things backed up.
Yeah, so I mean,
Da-da-da-da-da.
So I think the bottom line is you're free to make application, which you've already done. You said to the select board, and the select board, well, I can't speak for them, but they would make a decision whether or not to grant you the license to operate. And it's really not something where you should have to come before the zoning board.
There is nothing in the document under application instructions that speaks to the zoning board of appeals approval. So I think the chairman's absolutely correct in that is falls within the purview of the board of selectmen, and as long as you meet these regulations, I think you're
Works
all
for us.
set. Sorry to waste your time.
I think you can, I mean,
Angry taxpayer.
the board is in agreement, but I suppose the proper procedure would be just that the applicant could withdraw the application.
Yeah.
Everybody agree?
Fine.
And that, again, that doesn't prejudice you, because you're free to ask for the license from the select board. I assume that they would be inclined to allow it. And then henceforth you'd be governed by those regulations. I haven't reviewed them in detail, but it probably requires annual renewals.
It does,
It does
And
say
you have to
annually.
be subject to Board of Health regulations and fire department, and any other regulations that apply. You're aware you have to comply with all of that.
Get to move it.
All that's all been done.
Get to move it.
Yeah.
There you go, you're all
All
set.
right, all right.
What's that?
You get to move it a couple times a year too.
Oh, once.
Once or whatever it says in there now. But those went in 2018, so.
Yeah. All right, so we'll, I mean, the board will just deem the application withdrawn, and you're free to pursue it with the Board of Selectmen.
Very
All right,
good.
thanks.
Is there a breakfast?
Yes,
We'll be down tomorrow.
okay.
Make sure she's there.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right, moving right along. Next item,
That's because Joe was in charge.
It's been so quick.
the next item is, well, we're actually a little early, but I think we could proceed with a discussion, and if we take a vote, we may have to wait until 6:20. But I suggested that we put the next two items on the agenda just to review them. The first one is a discussion and possible vote regarding an amendment to the zoning bylaws as they relate to multifamily development. This is something the board has already decided some time ago, if you recall, and we submitted, on the board's behalf, I submitted a letter to the select board. Under the statute, a hearing was held before the planning board, and the planning board voted, I don't think it was unanimous, but it was 3-1 or 2-1, not to support the proposal the zoning board had made. As a result of the hearing before the planning board, and also as a result of an opinion that was issued by town council, the vice chairman and I made some alterations to the proposal. But since, and I'll discuss them with you in a minute, but since we made those alterations, it would require, I believe, submitting to the selectmen again and another public hearing, which could be done before the town meeting. And the changes are as follows. We had suggested initially, and the board voted initially, to extend the distance required from the property line for duplexes. The multifamily bylaw that is in existence now provides that if a building has 4 units or 3 units, it has to be 200 feet from the property line, and
2 units.
and
20.
a certain distance between the units. I can't recall off the top of my head. But there was a so-called carve-out for duplexes, buildings that had 2 units. They did not have to be 200 feet. They had to be 40 feet from the property line. And
20. 20.
it was 40, from the property line.
I think it was 20 from an adjacent,
Okay.
wasn't it?
Double check.
Yeah, I think it was 40, 40, well, I've got it here, so.
I think it's 20, and then we had the people go to 40. 20 is ringing in my brain.
I don't think so. Let me just find it.
Huh? No, they don't want it, so it's.
No, the existing bylaw before, the bylaw that is in existence right now provides that properties, dwelling units, provided, however, that any multifamily dwelling consisted of only 2 dwelling units shall be located at a minimum of 40 feet from adjacent properties and public ways. So basically, the existing bylaw provides that duplexes have to be 40 feet from the property line and 15 feet from each building. And we were suggesting in this amendment to extend those distances, not to prevent multifamily dwellings from being built in the town, but to make the construction of those dwellings more consistent with the character of the town. There's a section in the existing bylaw, 423, It says the purpose of the design requirements are to ensure that multifamily dwellings and developments are consistent in scale and site design with the single-family residential character of the town, to protect the environment, ensure pedestrian safety, etc. So our intent when we made these proposals was to comply with 4.2.3 so that multifamily dwellings certainly would not be prohibited, but they ought to be consistent in scale and site design with the single-family residential character of the town. That was the purpose that was driving these proposals.
Because every one that we've had, that's been the biggest issue with the abutters, was the distance from the multifamily development to the property line, and then we get concessions or get them to move back. But I will note that at the public hearing, none of those, the vocal people who complained at all our hearing, none of them showed. Me and Pat were the only two in there that were speaking on the change, so.
No, after the public hearing, we suggested a modification. Instead of saying 200 feet for duplexes, we suggested 100 feet. The purpose, frankly, was to see if we could reach some common ground with the planning board, but the planning board did not agree with that either. I think we have a member right here who could comment, but I think the planning board's position is that they want to stick with the existing bylaw, and that would be their position at a town meeting. Is that correct, fair? All right. So this proposal that's being presented to you tonight would be that duplexes be 100 feet from property lines and 40 feet apart from each other. So that's one change. The other change was we had suggested that for purposes of calculating the number of units, the term lot area could not include wetland areas, easements, and other land that cannot be built upon. Town council has offered an opinion that that would not be legal, that area has to be included. So we are suggesting that sentence that we added be stricken so it complies with.
So that easements can be included
in the calculation.
As open space and what have you?
Well, it's not so much open space. It's for calculating the number of units.
Okay.
In a given lot, there's only so many units that can be built in order to comply with the setbacks, et cetera.
So for instance, on the one that we did on Clinton Road, it was a 12-acre parcel, but when you carve out the power lines, it really was an 8-acre parcel, which was hence why all the issues of the density. But the planning board did think that we were, the planner, or the town planner, said that, this was going against the zoning on housing and this and that, so, but it is what it is, so.
Well, I think one of the things he suggested was that it appears that the state, the Commonwealth, is trending in the direction of pushing for more dense housing. And again, I think our position is that we're not suggesting there should not be multifamily dwellings or multifamily development in the town. I assume most people on the board, or maybe everybody on the board, would agree that we should have different forms of housing in the town. But our concern, again, was to try to make it consistent with the single-family residential character of the town. So that was the purpose of it. And other than that, I don't think, there was one typographical error. It was a reference to a previous section of the bylaw that was in error, I think. And there was
the original bylaw.
And there was one misspelling. So those are the modifications to the First Amendment that we had proposed. And if we choose to agree on this, we have to go through the same routine, submit it to the select board. There'd be a hearing before the planning board. So that's before you. Comments, questions?
So we initially proposed 200.
For duplexes.
Right.
It's already,
Okay.
it's already 200 for buildings that have 4 units.
Right.
It's already, it's already 200 feet for buildings that have 4 units or 3 units.
Yeah.
But buildings that have 2
That
units
carve out.
only have to be 40. So initially, we had proposed 200, so it would be consistent with the buildings with 4 units and buildings with 3 units. But we modified that to 100 in the hopes that we could get some common ground with the planning board, but.
Was the 100 discussed at all? Or?
Yeah, we discussed it, but it was just, they like it the way it is, and so it was, like me and Pat said, hey, we're just putting this forward based on our past practices, and people that have come, they don't face the ire of the crowd like we do in the beginning, but it was a little disappointing that nobody, all the ones that had issue with it, nobody showed up. So at the same time, I think our position was if we do it and put it forward, let the voters, the planning board can say, and selectmen say, we don't support it, it's there. If they don't.
Yeah. Oh, clearly, I mean, it's going to be up to the.
I just didn't know if the 100 was discussed and they
Yeah, we
kind of
can.
had an appetite, or if we're just throwing it in and it's probably going to get not supported.
They're not going to support it again,
Okay.
no way.
No, but I mean, is that fair, Patty, that they?
I don't say we like that bylaw, but rather than a Band-Aid, we'd like to look at a rewrite, but the way the planners, we're doing commercial, not this one, the next year, to go
Oh, yeah,
on
well,
to 20.
The planner, I think, had this vision of just doing business and commercial amendments this year and residential next year, but.
So a 15,000 square foot lot would require what for a rear yard separation?
The smallest we have is 20.
20, okay, 20,000 square foot lot would require how much of a setback from the rear property line?
For a single family?
You're talking about single family or multi?
Single.
Single.
Isn't it 40?
I think it's smaller for neighborhood
We talk,
residential.
well, I mean, neighborhood
It's
residential
35.
would be half acre, and that's 20.
Yeah, rural
1,000 square
residential,
feet, yeah.
rural residential is 40, neighborhood residential rear yard is 25, and rear yard, front yards are 40, 40, 40.
Because that's an,
Across, except in the downtown, you can do 0.
well, that's a single family. We're talking about multifamily.
Understood, yeah, understood.
The issue was though, if you're putting a large-scale project on a big parcel of land,
Yep.
the big thing is people don't want you're taking the rural character of mostly a single-family area, turning it into a multi-family area. So if you at least go, say, 200 feet or 100 feet, you're not, they were concerned you're taking a lot of excess area, but we were thinking at least you could probably tuck it in that it doesn't look like it's up against, the residential homes and kind of we were banking on the rural character, but.
My greater concern is separation. And as I've indicated before, and this is
15, we went to more. We went to,
40, I think 40 is the minimum acceptable, quite honestly, because when they talk scientific methods from firefighting point of view, you're going to have radiant heat from one building to the other within 50 feet.
what did we change it to, Pat?
40.
Yeah, we went to
40.
And
yeah.
so 40, I think, makes sense. It's certainly a heck of a lot better than whatever it is. 15. 15 is way too close. Is way
So
too
that, we did
close.
change that in there.
So 40 is acceptable. The rear, I could be convinced on 100, but I'm not too concerned about 40 either. So.
If you want to envision what it looks like, if you're familiar with the development on Millie's Way off Chase Hill Road.
Oh, yeah.
Those units are 40 feet from the property line and 15 feet apart.
So theoretically, you could build next to it and you're going to have an 80-foot separation. If you were to build, let's say there were 2 lots, okay, and you built in this lot here, you had to have 40 feet behind.
Single family would have 80 feet between them.
Not if they're doing, the way they're set up, it
Yeah,
wouldn't.
no, correct. But if it was on side is
Only 25.
side's only
Rural
25, so it'd be
residential.
50 feet apart.
Well, I understand the side, I'm talking back to back.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
80.
80.
on
So
a single.
basically, we're taking that apples to apples, at 80, we're really making it 40, 50, 100. Because this here says 100,
Yeah.
100 feet from any property or any adjacent property or public way.
Yeah.
That's what we are suggesting. That's not the law now.
So just for an example, the one we just did over here.
Yeah.
So those were what?
There were more because everyone came, so then we had them push them back. This is what happens on
But as far
everyone.
as how far they were apart from each other,
They were 25, I think they went to.
25 feet?
Yeah.
The ones on Clinton Road.
Clinton Road.
But they ended up being 25 or
I
something.
think they were close.
So
Closer
so
than
we're
20.
saying that 25 now needs to be 100.
No,
No,
I'm saying
40.
25. Between them needs to be 40.
Between the
From the
buildings,
property
40
line.
from the property line, but
Okay.
40 feet if
The
there's,
property line for them was 200, right?
yeah, if there are 4 or 5
Clinton Road?
duplexes, each duplex has to be
40.
40 feet
40.
apart.
Oh, I'm sorry.
40
Ended up
feet
being like
apart,
75.
But 100 feet from any
Okay.
property line.
They made some concessions and moved it back, but every one, the one Redstone, same thing, it happened at 40, got moved back a little bit, that one moved back. Millie's Way, even as a 40B, I can't remember if that was 40 from the back or if
No, it's
they-
40, I think it's
yeah.
40 foot, yeah.
Although not for nothing, like, no matter what you do, there's still gonna be people that complain. It's not gonna solve.
Well, it doesn't
it's not
sound
gonna
like
solve
what I
butter
would do is not gonna
complaints.
go for anything.
Exactly, so why bother?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one factor of butter complaints. The other factor, I think the prevailing factor is we thought this is more consistent with the structure of the
Yeah,
town.
I just think excuse me.
Go ahead.
If you're in you have a residential, single-family residential home, and now you get to put a multi-family in, and say it abuts your property, I'm sure as a homeowner of your existing property, and you're in a single-family neighborhood, now you have the option of doing a multi-family, you don't really want to be staring at, it kind of defeat the rural character. It may or may not, depending on the types of units, but overall, like we talk about now, the houses are 40 feet, so you're at least at 80. You're not at 40, so I don't know. That kind of matches existing zoning. But if it's a 3-family or up to 4-family, it has to be 200 or 100. It can go down to 100
For
for a 3-family or 4-family
No,
multifamily.
they still have to be, I think, 200 feet from the
Exactly,
property
so-
line. Yeah. That's the existing bylaw right now. One of when we spoke to the planning board, the chairman offered the comment that, if I remember correctly, this is going to discourage developers, and every developer will want to do a 40B project. But that's something I don't think the town can control. If developers want to do a 40B project,
And I even look at the ones that we have.
they'll apply, and we'll do what we have to do. But obviously, under a 40B project, the town is limited in terms of what sort of restrictions it can place on the application.
I also think it's
just don't want to know.
consistent with or your proposal is consistent with what those people who participated in the master plan want. And that's preservation of the rural character of the town. And I think that should be the overriding factor here. We all sit in our own little vacuums or silos, and we talk about this, but to me, the overriding factor is what those people who had input into the master plan have to say and what they're looking for in the town. And I think preserving the rural character as much as we possibly can is the overriding thing. And there are those that want denser development and think about the tax dollars, and the taxes have gone up, but we're not the only ones that are facing that, unfortunately. So we got to get beyond that issue.
But it does provide alternative means for people to live in town, for those that are gonna build something that.
I think maybe the planning board disagrees. I don't think it discourages development of multifamily housing. It just puts a little more restrictions on what somebody might want to do.
I agree.
Joe, you're not voting on this, but did you want to offer any comment?
I think the 100's good. I think if you took a house, a single-family house, and you put up a multi-family development behind it, you would have maybe 3 of those duplexes in your backyard. If you kept it at 40 feet, you walk out and then there's 3 of them there instead of one house. So if you could just get that buffer a little bit more, 100 seems to be a fair, reasonable compromise overall, especially if it's 200 for larger units. I think you're meeting them more than halfway.
That's a good point.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to, if you choose to do so, to authorize me as chair to, pursuant to the statute, notify the select board that we're proposing this and ask them to submit it to the planning board for a hearing.
So I have two things. Number one is, I guess I kind of lean on if they're looking at doing something holistic and looking at this in a year or so, I guess I might lean that way. But secondly, I think I have a conflict, so I think I have to hold on this one.
Mean abstain?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
All right. So moved by Mr. Curtin. Is there a second?
I'll second, is it the 100 feet and 40 feet?
Yeah, that's what's written.
Okay.
That's what's in the sheet form we have here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And you're abstaining?
Yeah.
All right, so the vote is 4 in favor, 1 abstention, and the motion is adopted. Okay, next item. Discussion possible vote on amendment to accessory dwelling unit. Now, the board talked about this at some earlier meeting, and I think decided not to do anything, but I'm presenting it again just to maybe reconsider. If the board wishes to not take any action on it, so be it. But the reason for this proposal is that we've had some applications, one I think not that long ago, to construct an accessory dwelling unit that extended, I think, beyond what the intent of the bylaw was. The bylaw says 800 square feet of living area, and that has been construed by some to mean the living area would be 800 feet, but you could have a porch and a garage and maybe other appurtenant structures that don't seem to have any limit other than the setback requirements. And I'm not sure that's what we want or what the town wants when it voted to approve the accessory dwelling unit bylaw. So I'm wondering if we should recommend, and again, we'd have to go through the whole process of notifying the select board and then asking for a hearing, whether we should suggest any amendment to the ADU bylaw to clarify that the intent was that it be 800 square feet in total. And we may disagree on that, but we can just...
You know my opinion.
Well,
I wrote it and sent it to you.
Comments?
I sent to Pat that when we did it originally back, when we did the first accessory dwelling unit before it got redone, it came in front because we had same type of thing. We had people with houses and then wanted to build, it was some crazy one. It was like gonna be a garage, and it was like, it was like 5,000 square foot garage with an apartment above or something crazy. And we were like, well, that's like 2 houses on 1 lot. So Jeff Donaldson, I think, was here, and somebody else, and they crafted the bylaw that used to exist. And the 800 square feet was put in there because we had people come in that say we're gonna put a garage on and then put a apartment above the garage. And then we came up with that number, so if it was 30 by 30 or 28 by 28 for a garage, or 24, you had enough room to do it above. That's how the original came about, so however you guys want to do it, that's fine, but that was how the 800 square feet, and up to this point, we only had that one issue with the one on Osgood that brought the thing. It was going to be a separate dwelling unit, which, didn't we get rid of that?
I think so.
Yeah, you can't have a separate dwelling unit now.
Yeah, there's not...
You can't have a detached.
Detached, yeah.
So there's no detached, so that it may not, I just think limiting it, then you can't say you have a single family house and your, I don't know, in-laws or whatever want to move in and you want to put the 2-car garage in the room above. That's how it came about, so.
What do people think about it?
Do we have anything proposed, or are we just kind of spitting?
Well, I think the answer, direct answer is probably no. But the suggestion is, well, the question is, do we want to, would we prefer to see the ADU bylaw structured so that it's 800 feet in total for anything, garages, porches, whatever? Or are we comfortable with the way it's worded now? Which basically allows the zoning enforcement officer to make some judgment calls here, because when the bylaw was last amended, detached units were eliminated, but attached units are allowed as of right. So it doesn't even come before us. If the zoning enforcement officer issues a permit to someone who wants 800 feet of living area, but also wants to attach a garage and a porch, if he takes a very liberal view of what the bylaw means, I suppose he can do that. It wouldn't come before us.
But they're still governed by the setback requirements.
What's the
Setback, yeah.
For that zone.
And also it has to meet the neighborhood character, as I recall, right? Isn't that one of the requirements?
What does that mean?
Yeah,
Still
that's,
doesn't need septic.
Well, I guess I'm just saying like that
So
gives
maybe
you a little bit of
But who cares? So you
discretion
make
if they come
your
in the
garage
porch
a
is
Well, but-
1,600
apartment,
square.
and then you want to add
How-
another garage to the other side.
oh, if somebody challenged the decision of the zoning enforcement officer? Is that what you-
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we can just, if you choose, we can just leave it the way it is and let the zoning enforcement officer figure it out. But I mean, it doesn't, it seems to raise a consistency problem, because could the zoning officer say yes to one person who wanted to do garages and porches and no to someone else?
But it was like the one on Osgood, if they wanted to get their permit at the time and then come back later and get a permit for another garage in the backyard, they can, it's no different if, Pat, you wanted to put an apartment, say, in your two-car garage, say for your in-laws, where you want to make an accessory apartment in your two-car garage and use that and then put another garage on the other side. What's the difference? As long as it meets the thing, it's an addition to the house. To me, I don't think it's anything. I think when it was detached, it was the issue. I haven't seen an issue yet with an attached. And if somebody wanted to come and do, put their apartment here and then do an addition on their house, like Matt says, they're still going to be regulated by the size of their septic system, the setbacks of the lot. You know what I mean? It's the, whatever. So if they want to have a 5,000 square foot house, who cares?
We did have well, I guess it's a question if people care. We did have well, it was an application, but some folks appeared at one of our meetings recently because they had a proposal in, I think it was in the Pikes Hill neighborhood.
That was the one, the garage on the other side and then the apartment
It
on the
was
side.
almost as if, the so-called ADU basically expanded the house twofold, I think. And, if people are comfortable with that, that's fine. But I just put it on the agenda so that we could have another look at it.
I don't want to mimic the town planner, but everything you read now, all these towns and everything with the house, and we did it to go by right to the ADUs. That's what a lot of the places are doing to try and get dwelling units in, so I don't.
Yeah, so I mean, are you comfortable with that then, or not?
I'm all right with it. Once we got rid of the detached, because that was the issue, and that's what the original one tried to avoid, and I think by eliminating the detached dwelling unit, that solved the problem that we had, because now you're attaching to the main house, so if the apartment has all this individual stuff.
But there would be no parameters. It would be, which is, if
It's up to the
that's what
building
people
inspector.
want, that's fine, but it would be within the total discretion of the building commissioner to make those determinations.
Yeah, but if you.
So the 800 feet really doesn't mean a whole lot if he were to make the
Well,
determination.
it does, because the apartment can only be 800 square feet of living
Only
space.
living.
So you could put so just say you have a single, I remember one right near, on the Clinton Road, Albright Road. So you go to Clinton Road and you make a left. It's the first house on Albright, not the one on the corner, first one on the left. And it was just a standalone colonial. And then the people came in because they were doing accessory dwelling unit for their in-laws. So they did an attached two-car garage, a separate set of stairs on the outside, and it connected the house. But the apartment was above the garage. So say that the apartment might have only been 600 square feet, and the garage was 600. So the total was 1,200, but it didn't look like anything, like, I don't know, but.
So there wouldn't be, if we were to leave it the way it is and the building commission makes determinations, the only way the issue, I think, would come before us is if some neighbor or butter challenged it. But then again, I'm not sure how that a butter would even know about it, because if the building commissioner just makes a determination, there's no notice.
Oh, there's people in town
Well, I
that
mean,
look at
they
building
may-
permits, trust me, I know that for a fact.
Well, yeah, but
Okay.
that's the local culture, if you will, but
Yes.
there's no legal requirement to notify abutters, or, so
Well,
they
as
may.
long as it meets the setbacks.
Right, so they may or may not know about that, but the only way it would come before us is if some neighbor wanted to challenge it.
Yeah.
And then if it comes before us, what standard do we employ? We just say the building commissioner's approved it and it's as of right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there'd be, in every instance, there'd be nothing to decide.
But I know my, whatever number of years I've been on, I haven't had one of those yet. All we've had is the ones trying to avoid, and every one that's been a problem is the detached, as far as getting away from the rural character. Because to me, Pat, so if I have a ranch and I want to put the apartment on one side, 800 square feet, and then I want to go get a building permit next year and do the garage on the other side, it should be right as a homeowner, so.
Almost
I don't-
sounds like it should be removed from the requirement for a special permit, just have the building inspector deal with it.
Well, that's what it is, it's by
what
right
it
right
is.
now.
That's what the
So-
bylaw says. The only way it would come before us is if somebody appealed the decision of the building commissioner.
They had one on Pikes Hill come, and the apartment was on the right side of the house, and then they needed a new driveway or something, so they still have to get a driveway permit and everything else, and then they were gonna build an addition on the left side of the house at the same time. So the total square footage was whatever, it says 2,000.
We get into a lot of subjective thing. One of the requirements in the existing statutes, the ADU shall be clearly subordinate to the primary dwelling.
Correct.
Now, how do you determine that?
That's, because that was the whole thing. That's why we went with the 800 square feet originally, saying, okay, if a house is 2,000 square feet, 800 was somewhat,
Well, it may be,
they're not
Yep.
anymore. We haven't had one in a while. We only had the one, the detached one, because it was,
yeah, Joe.
Short answer, I agree with Joe mainly on this.
Yeah.
I would say, you're gonna have to come up with a real bad scenario. I have a house, put a two-car garage, then I put the ADU on the side of that 800, then I put a garage for the ADU. I get nervous on that end of it, that all of a sudden becomes an apartment rather than an ADU,
Oh,
if you
that's-
start adding. But that's going down a rabbit hole, going that far to that. But overall, I would say 1,000, or 99.9% of the time, it's a by right thing. If I'm gonna put a garage, I put the garage up and then I put the ADU up. As long as whatever's going to the ADU is subordinate to the house, that's all that matters. I
Again,
think
I
Joe's
think-
right mainly on this though.
But,
For the-
but and that's fine. I'm not, I don't have a real strong opinion one way or the other on this, but I mean, you mentioned that rabbit hole. There'd be no limits. It's totally at the
You're gonna
building
run out of
commission's
land
discretion.
at some point in time.
Well-
Down that.
No, but if you had enough land, you could end up with a unit that the building commission might say is subordinate to the principal residence, but everyone surrounding it, every neighbor says, wait a minute, this is twice as big or at least as big as the original
I
house.
think the living space protects you.
but it won't be, because
Setbacks.
the apartment can only be 800, if they come for a bigger apartment and all the requirements, but for the 800 square feet, no matter what. Because I mean,
That's
anybody
protection.
can expand their house to whatever it is, but obviously not everybody does, you know what I mean? Not everybody's adding on, because it's not, I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's fine. Everett, you want to?
I'm okay with the way, what we've been talking about, the 800 square feet. I'm okay with that, and, I just think there are enough protections in the existing bylaw as far as setback and what have you, to keep that from becoming a nightmare.
Any other thoughts? All right, so the sense is that we do not wish to pursue this beyond the existing bylaw. We're content to leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
That's fine. All right, so we will not take a vote on that, and we'll leave it as is. All right, the last item on the agenda is a review of the minutes. Patty, there were a couple of, it's mostly typos, there were 3 typos that I can discuss. I don't know if we need to take up the board's time to go over it. I didn't see anything substantive to change.
How about
Board-
Joe?
What's that?
things off. I'm trying to be nice, Patty. You just got back on vacation.
Oh,
I chased you back on vacation.
You've got some changes?
No.
Oh, I thought, all right.
I
She's
just get a bad rap.
she's just referring to your reputation.
Yes, it precedes myself everywhere I go.
All right. Any board member have any concerns, any substantive concerns on the amendments? And I can mention the typos to you later. So motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
I don't know that I can I vote because I wasn't at the whole meeting?
Well, you could probably vote in part, but you want to abstain? That's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I'll abstain.
All right, so the vote is 4 in favor, one abstention to approve the minutes. Unless we have any other business items, I think we are ready to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? All right, 5 in favor and 0 opposed. We are adjourned. Thank you.